This is Neil Ross, and you are listening to the Geekcast Radio Network.
You're tuned in to Steve Megatron on Altered Geek.
Hello and welcome to Altered Geek. I'm your host, Steve Megatron Phillips. Today I'd like to welcome to the program JD, a professional comics writer, presenter at various Comic-Cons, and freelance comic editor-writer. Welcome, JD.
Welcome. Thanks for having me on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
No problem. So, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name's JD Boucher. I am, freelance comic writer and editor. I've edited a couple of indie comics. I've written for quite a few comics that have gone to Kickstarter, like anthologies. And I have, been in the comic scene and done panels for about 5 years now. I've presented at San Diego and Emerald City, Comic-Cons, on a variety of topics. So that's my background. I also wrote 80 pages about Spider-Man for my senior thesis, so.
Yeah, that's pretty geeky right there.
Yeah, that's my, there's my cred right there.
That kind of reminds me of taking a screenwriting class and creating my own superhero universe in a TV pilot I had to write for the screenwriting finale of the class.
Oh, pilots are tough. What was your log line?
It was, I gotta try and remember, I wrote it like 3 years ago. It was something along the lines of a man that... It sounds super boring with me saying it now because I can't remember it. But
oh, it's fine.
But it's like one man has to save the past, or has to save today and the future, but doesn't know it yet, and he's basically assassinated. But you find out that he can't die.
Oh.
So.
Oh, was that the big twist at the end of the pilot? Is that he gets assassinated and it's like, oh, I'm still alive.
It happens in the middle, actually, but then
nice.
the real twist is the villains and some of the things, because there's a lot of confusion, a lot of mystery around it, and then the person who helps the lead of the story is actually from the future, but nobody knows it.
Oh, okay, nice. That's a good way to end your first episode. And tune in next week. Or I guess with Netflix, it's please watch the next episode. We need those streaming numbers.
Yeah, and it's the villain of the week type thing again, but the main villain of the week, something happens to him, but there's a twist to it at the end.
Nice.
So it definitely, I left it off so that I could write more, and then it just never got back to it. So.
I understand that. Sorry if I've revealed your secrets to everyone. If you have to tweak it before you pitch it again.
Oh no, it's fine. It's sitting somewhere in a file on my computer. So, so I see you you run a website called gothiccomics.com.
Yes, I curate that site. I built that during one summer, because I realized there was no it's a pretty popular set of comics, like Gothic comics, but there was no place to find them all. And so what I did is put that site together for just an easy to find, especially for web comics. And then I put links to some of the more classic ones that were in print. A lot of them aren't even in print anymore, though. I got to pull that up. But that's why I wanted to kind of make that collection, so that way, if people were ever curious, they could go find it.
That's awesome. So what about the genre is it that kind of drew you to it?
Well, I don't want to say I'm kind of goth, but not enough to be hardcore about it. I mostly just read the comics. And so I felt like that was my contribution to kind of the gothic subcultures. I want to just catalog them all on the website. Mostly because I lived in the middle of nowhere, so there's no goth clubs or scene. It was just a bunch of hicks.
So what are some of the series that you've had the pleasure of writing for, and some that you strive to work on?
Okay, yeah. So if you, shameless plug, go to my website at skeletoncreative.com, you'll have all of the stuff that I've published and is available, you can buy on my shop. Most of it's digital download, and most of what I've written so far is for anthologies. So, like the one that has most recently come out was It was the Knock Knock zine, which is a zine that's all about nightmares. And so mine was Robert Smith, Nightmare for Hire. So he was like this Cthulhu-esque like giant businessman guy who you could hire to, infect people's nightmares. But, he puts ads on Craigslist. Like, he's just a normal businessman who just happens to be a Cthulhu-esque monstrosity.
That's awesome. And I know somebody that would really enjoy that as like a storyline too, which is even funnier because he's huge into Cthulhu.
Oh yeah, and it's huge right now. I mean, apparently they're gonna do. There's a Nick Cage movie coming out from the people who made Mandy. I think it's the Color from Space, which is an old Lovecraft story, and Nick Cage is going to be in the lead in a feature film. So that'll be. I know Nick Cage is an acquired taste, but apparently he was good in Mandy, and so those producers probably know what to do with him.
He kind of plays the same thing in everything, though, in a sense, because he's still Nick Cage.
True. Yeah. You're signing up for the cage, and so you got to know how to just let him loose in the right ways.
You just put the costume on him and then just let him go.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much. I'm a Nick Cage fan, so it doesn't bother me in the slightest.
Yeah, no, I'm one of the few people, like, at least when I was a kid, I loved the Ghost Rider movie. I liked the first one. The second one, I can't really... The special effects were cool in the second one. Other than that, I can't really defend it too much.
So, you mentioned the Comic-Cons.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like presenting and being a part of that whole process?
Oh, yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'd highly recommend to anybody listening, if you have pretty much a lot of knowledge in a topic that you're passionate about, and you know enough people to fill up a panel, I would say apply. If there's local cons nearby that usually have open submissions for panels, and if your panel gets accepted, you get into the con for free or for a discount, usually for free. So when it comes to Emerald City, which is like my hometown con, the first one I got in was the Spooky Comics panel. And so I've done that one for this year will be the 5th year doing it because nobody else was doing a panel on it. I knew some folks that had a lot of knowledge on the topic, and so I just brought them on board. And then I've just tried out different panels throughout the years. This year is the 2nd year I'm doing the RPGs and storytelling. Last year, it was standing room only in Emerald City last year because RPGs are huge right now. Everybody loves D&D and like all the spin-off ones. Like with things like the Adventure Zone, everybody's just hyped.
Yeah, especially with like Geek and Sundry and everything doing their various shows.
Yeah, I need to. If I had more time, I'd watch more Geek and Sundry, but I've heard nothing but excellent things about it.
Yeah, I know they've done a variety of like D&D-esque games, or they've done like a Star Trek version. They've done a lot of other ones, and it's something that interests me because I don't fully understand it because I'm just not into that space. So
that makes sense.
So it's something like I'll periodically tune into just to kind of figure out like what makes it tick a little bit. Yeah,
that makes sense.
So what are some of your experiences with the whole RPG scene, and what do you think makes it popular?
Okay, I think there's a couple of things about why it's kind of having a resurgence right now. One is that nerdy stuff is cool again, and that's nice.
Yes.
Second, with a lot of people, like with the internet being bigger than ever, having video game or like having a game that you can play with someone far away is a big appeal. And so like sometimes that's video games, but for a lot of people it's RPGs. And also yeah, people are kind of really craving that social interaction right now. And if you can have a more structured social interaction, like an RPG, usually you meet once a week, you meet for a certain amount of time, and it's somewhat low pressure. I think a lot of people really dig that. And also you get to like, be a fun character, because like I'm playing in one right now that I've been doing for like almost 2 years now, where I play a little mushroom man named Soot, and he just is really stabby, and he talks like this, and he's just ready to go.
Nice. I used to play like as close as I got to an RPG was Warhammer.
Oh yeah, the
little piece, the
oh
little
yeah,
board
actually,
pieces. And I take that back. In the early to mid 2000s, I was a part of a Transformers website doing RPGs. But it
nice.
was writing. Like it was.
Yeah, RP.
Yep, RP.
Yeah,
not game. The RP part, yes. And crafting the characters and coming up with the storyline and writing pieces in that, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, I think I have a lot of respect for people who do RP. Not my thing, but like I respect, because people who could put out all those pros for those characters. I'm like, wow, good job. I wouldn't have the focus for that. Though you said you're a Warhammer fan,
Mm-hmm.
I am as well.
Yes.
My friends just got me in this year, and it's just like, well, rip wallet.
Yeah, I was fortunate. I had a friend that like I couldn't personally afford any of the pieces or to play the game, but he liked to buy them and then give them these like wild paint jobs.
Oh, nice.
Because he was very artistically inclined, whereas I am not.
Yeah.
As far as like my painting skills, or like I can do digital art better than I can do any type of drawing or coloring.
Right. Yeah, and you can't digital art a miniature, no matter how cool that would be.
Yeah, and so like we would play the game, and because I lived close to his house anyway, and we'd hang out and do that, and it was very interesting learning how that whole process works, and coming up with the whole process, and there's a lot you can do with it, and we actually, funny enough, adapted it and created like a paper version.
Oh, that makes sense.
Like we did it on paper in school, because obviously you can't bring all the miniatures, so we figured out a way of doing it on paper. And people were like, "What are you guys doing?" And we're like, "Oh, we're playing Warhammer." And they're like, "How are you?" And we're like, "Oh, it makes sense to us." And they're like, "I have no idea what you're doing."
It's proxy models. Don't y'all know?
So yeah, it was interesting. But yeah, that's crazy about the RPG stuff coming back as strong as it is. So what are some panels that you have that you're looking forward to doing, if you have any?
Yeah, so Emerald City coming up in March. I got pretty much the two panels I already talked to you about, the Gothic Comics panel, like spooky comics, and then the RPGs and storytelling. Those are going to be tons of fun. In previous years, I did one on asexual rep in comics and media in general. I did one San Diego Comic-Con. I actually got my pass there for free because I wrote a paper on Captain Marvel, who has the movie coming out. So that's really exciting. I can't wait for that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to a lot of those new superhero movies coming out this year as well.
There's so many. I wish I could be a little kid right now, because there's superhero stuff everywhere. Like there's way more toys and action figures and T-shirts. Like they didn't have an eighth of that stuff when I was a kid.
No, it's the same boat here. Like I'm not sure how old you are, but I'm going on 33, and the toys were not nearly as nice as what we have now.
Yeah, no, it's like I turned 25 I turned 25, and like even then it was still not as good. Like it's only in like the last 5 years or so that everything has been like, especially like Honestly, a lot of people like to make fun of them, but props to Funko for finding their like niche.
Yeah, I give them props. I'm not a fan of the designs.
Oh yeah, no, that's fair. Definitely, you like them or you don't.
Yeah, I'm more of the fully. I have a friend that likes to argue with me about the accuracy of them, and I get where he's coming from. Like they do make them look better than like the Mighty Mugs did.
Oh yeah,
when those were a big fad a few years ago. But
I remember those. Yeah, I have
but
the Ghost Rider one.
nice. I had Cobra Commander.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yes. I have Weird Al Funko Pop because he sent it to me.
Oh yeah.
He's got a whole wall of them, but I'm more of the like show accurate type of look. Like I want them to look like my series that I'm watching. So
fair.
But yeah, it's amazing the things that they come up with now. So what are some of your inspirations as far as when you're doing comics and series that have kind of played into that, or characters that have played into that?
Let's see. I mean, the dream, if you couldn't tell already, would be to write Ghost Rider. My favorite run all time, Jason Aaron's Ghost Rider. It is insane. There is machine gun wielding nuns. There's possessed truckers. There's fights with angels. Like, it's just off the wall, crazy, and I love every moment of it. And that's what I love about comic books, is the stuff that you can do in comic books you couldn't do anywhere else. Like again, Ghost Rider is one of my favorites. I love Wick Div currently by Kieran Gillen and Jamie McKelvey, and well, the whole team. If you're listening, team, I swear you're important too. That one's about pop god or gods that come back every like 70 years in the form of like in 2014 they come back and they look like pop stars. So Odin looks like a member of Daft Punk, and Baal looks like Kanye West, and Amaterasu looks like Florence from Florence and the Machine. And there's a lot of murder. Man, it gets real intense. There's one of the biggest, like, the fan group size, they call it a Wickdiv support group because of all the murder that happens.
Nice.
Yeah, no, it's a good time. I'd recommend that to, like, that's a great comic to get started. And then everybody loves Saga. That's not one of my favorite, but I know that's what a lot of people just love, Saga.
So I also see that you've had ties to the Terminator and Evil Dead franchise.
Yeah, so that was my past job. Don't work with them anymore. But, you know, it was really great to kind of work with the people who owned it, and, you know, licensing and kind of making sure that things are approved by a licensor is such a fascinating process. Like, once you learn how that industry works, you see some stuff and you're like, I see why it was made that way nowadays. And you could also wonder, like, how things like Kingdom Hearts happened because it's a licensing miracle. The fact that Kingdom Hearts exists is due to so many small miracles happening at every single part of the process.
That's almost like the Wreck-It Ralph type of scenario where you have all these different franchises taking place in these movies just because, you know, or like even Ready Player One with like Steven Spielberg.
Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, anybody will drop it. Doors. Yeah, anybody would open those doors for him. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that you pretty much nailed it. Because if somebody comes to your company, it's like, "Hey, we want your character in here for a Steven Spielberg movie." They're gonna be like, "Yeah, yeah, no, where do we sign?"
Exactly, because he's like walking money.
Mm-hmm. Walking money.
It's a new show.
Yeah, new from what is that channel? AMC, The Walking Money.
New from AMC, Walking Money.
I mean, honestly, that's what that show is. There's a reason why it's got a spin-off show and like 12 million consumer products.
Oh yeah, and the huge comic following that it has.
Oh yeah, I mean, pretty much like, and from what I've heard, the comic has just stayed consistent. Like it's just a good zombie comic, and that's why like people stick with it.
Yeah, and that's what I heard. Even on funny enough, a previous interview on the Altered Geek Spotlights, one of the guests talked about The Walking Dead, how it's been consistent, how it's been a great franchise, and sells consistently the a massive amount of comics per month, and the ratings have never really faltered all that much, and it's kind of that nice melding of pop culture and in comic books.
Yeah, it's one of the few comics that actually converts people from like watching the show to reading the comic, because no matter how much people like, a lot of companies want this to happen, is that like, oh, you'll go watch the show and then you'll read the comic, but sometimes that conversion doesn't happen, which is a bummer. And sometimes it's really hard to get the people who are watching the TV show to read the comic, and especially hard for like superhero comics, because there's so many of them, and then there's a new number one like every year or so, and people are just like, I don't know, I'll just go to the library, I guess.
Yeah, every time they reboot, it's like, do I really want to sign up again? Mm-hmm. Or where you have the characters and you have their main run, and then you have like, because most characters have like multiple runs going at the same time under different titles, and then there's also the ones like, say you have like the Flash, but then you have the Flash, but it's based off the TV series, and then so it's like, why?
There's
why
Barry Allen Flash and Wally West Flash, and there's Impulse, who became Kid Flash for a little while, and then it's
just it gets too convoluted, too confusing, and that's why people kind of are like, Whereas like you get something like The Walking Dead, and there's really nothing like it. Yeah,
it's pretty much, it's like, oh, you want to read The Walking Dead? Here's volume 1. Go.
Keep going.
There's only one volume 1.
So, all right. So like, what projects do you have coming up that you'd like to promote?
Okay, so I have a story in the upcoming Shakespeare anthology put on by Arledge Comics. That's My Kingdom for a Panel, which is a bunch of short comics inspired by Shakespeare that'll be hitting Kickstarter sometime this year. Pretty much, if you follow Arledge Comics on Twitter, or follow me at JD Boucher 0 on Twitter, you'll be able to keep up on that. And I have stuff that I'm working on and pitching, but I can't really talk about until it's like official time, because of it has to
NDAs
get bought
and all that
by
fun
someone,
stuff.
approved. Yep, exactly. But yeah, I mean, if you follow me on Twitter, you'll keep up with all the stuff I'm doing, as well as I always post everything on my website too at skeletoncreative.com.
Awesome. So how can, you've kind of already given the listeners a way to get a hold of you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always, if you have quick questions, Twitter's good. If you want to hire me for writing some comics or editing some comics, feel free to shoot me an email. Information's on the website.
That's a plug for money, people. Come on.
Yeah, come on. Thanks for having me on the show. And you have any other questions or?
No, but I appreciate you, and I thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to come hang out with us here on Altered Geek.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yep. So, until next time, get altered, get geeky with the Altered Geeks.